65 to 70% of Germans believe that Scholz is weak in his leadership, but no one knows what to do.
Hello, William.
Hello, Mark.
Nice to meet you again.
Yes.
One year later, after our first interview in Munich.
Yes.
And I'm very glad that you gave me the opportunity to talk again within footage. I've got some small questions. Perhaps you can give us some answers. Last year, you said you were here in Germany to look for new leadership from the folk.
Yes.
You said. Did you found somebody who is able to do the job what we have to do in the next years?
Well, Mark, I've been very diligent in this task, and anytime I hear about someone who has potential for leadership in the Länder or in the Bundestag or in the Chancellor's office, I try to find them and listen to them and meet them if I can, but I have found no one. And the current top 5 or 6 are a step backwards for us. When I say us, I mean
yes.
They're a step backwards. 65 to 70% of Germans believe that Scholz is weak in his leadership, but no one knows what to do about it. There's a consensus, but then you look at, now do we put Baerbock in his place? And the answer is no. And now do we put Habeck in his place, or do we put Lindner in his place, or do we put Lauterbach in? And the answer is no, and no again. So I have not found a person that I would turn Germany over to yet. And certainly what we have now is part of the process of a mandatory transition to something else. But not part of the solution at all. So
this will be a step between
yes,
a new, fully completed new leadership?
Well, you know, I said last November, I said the perfect storm's activities will hit in late January or February.
Yeah.
And people said, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? And we know what it means. It means the Ukraine situation, which is only a small part of the overall activities. People say, oh, that's the perfect storm. No, it's only a small part of the perfect storm. And then, I have always said this, there will be a pause sometime this summer, late summer, and then the second element of the perfect storm will come, but from a different direction.
Okay.
We say, oh, well, the Ukraine will increase in intensity. No, not necessarily. Because the perfect storm is like God. It's like the wind. You don't know which direction it's coming from. So I work parallel with the storm. I've always spoken truthfully about my role. But I don't control the storm. If I did, I would get the timing wrong all the time. I would always get it wrong. But God gets everything perfect. And so, but I have to work hand in hand and make sure that I'm in parallel with the storm. The Umstände and the Word come together. So what I said in November came about. We knew the date that the Ukraine situation would start. I had shared that with Lisa. But there's certain things I can share in advance and certain things I have to keep to my own self until that time. So But this is the year of decision. I said last night to a wonderful large group of people, I said, you know, when a woman gives birth to a child, there is pain, but it's good pain. And it's pain that the woman says, I have to go through it, but on the other side is new life, and that new life is what I want. And that's where Germany is right now.
Okay.
So we have 9 months that we have to endure a certain degree of pain and discomfort. And then we have new life.
9 months would be November.
Well,
when we start in February.
Yes, I'm more thinking of 9 months from as we sit here today.
Okay, 9 months. So
Yes.
this would be perhaps January or February
Yes.
next
yeah,
year.
that's what has
Okay.
always been in my mind.
Okay.
The year of decision means by January or early February, probably January, then this leadership is gone.
Okay.
They're not gone by violence. I won't tolerate violence. You know, anyone who says they're going to do something in a violent way, they have to oppose me. And if they oppose me, Mark, they will lose, and they know it. So even the most virulent of groups are keeping their heads down. We're going to keep it that way.
Yeah.
So these people rule, the current governments in Germany rule by fear. One fear, and then another fear,
Yeah.
and then another fear. Love casts out fear. It pushes fear away. You can't have love and fear in the same house, or in the same human, or in the same nation. So as love increases, fear leaves. And as fear leaves, those who use fear must also leave. They simply have to go somewhere else, because what they do doesn't work anymore. And the German people are no longer interested in being controlled by a series of fears any longer.
I hope so. Do you see an implosion of the European Union or the BRD as a construct, as a state, and then we will have a new, let's say, birth of something, new states or new nations, or an old nation coming back in this part of the world, Europe?
The word implosion doesn't resonate to me. And when we talk about old, you know, we have so many people who want 1871 or 1849 or the Golden Zeit or the Kaiser Zeit, but these are small groups of people who could never muster more than 10, 12, 13%. But I am here to bring unity. Unity means people coming together behind something in common.
Yeah.
In common. So what the new will look like is Deutschtum. That's what it looks like.
Okay.
It is a form of Germanness that goes back 1,000 years, and that's where I come from. That's where I live. That's where I rest until I am called forth. And so I live in that world continually. But the modern German doesn't live in that world. That's the problem.
No, they live in fear.
They live in fear. Yeah. They are terrified to say anything good about themselves or to feel good. For a German to walk out of here and go on the street and say, I am a German, I am proud to be German, would be insane for them. They would be in immediate trouble. So the world beyond this is a world where things make sense. Today everything is upside down, and they know it. But now we have to turn it right side up so things make sense. But they make sense in a sense of Germanness, in a sense of Deutschtum, in a sense where the Deutsche Seele can once again come free and begin to be active and be a part of the German life individually and collectively.
But I think most of Germans and also the leadership is cut off here. You know, you have got the brain and everything what is coming out of the brain, but it's not connected to the heart. Because you're speaking, I see it, like you're speaking from the heart and everything is coming from, let's say, from the soul of Mother Earth, for my opinion.
Yes.
And the Germans are blockaded in this area, for my opinion.
They are purposely blockaded in that area. They have been trained from birth. They have been not only educated, but they have been reinforced constantly that when any new impetus, anything new comes to them, even if it belongs in the heart, they immediately take it and they begin pushing it up, 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 and then they begin to analyze it.
Yeah.
And here comes the SAP blocks. And then they can put it into a block, and then they can categorize it, and they can say, now I have it under control, and it can't hurt me. But see, the heart has many facets. The heart can be hurt.
Yes,
and so Germans have almost a desperation to keep things above and to be able to put names to them and then put them into a box where they can control the box.
Yes.
But that's not the fullness of humanness, and they know it. But they're afraid of the fullness of humanness in a way because they don't know what's here. They know there is a Deutscher sein. Almost everyone knows there is one, but they don't know how to think about it. You know, so is this where only good subsides, or is there also evil?
Yeah.
If we let one come up, maybe we'll get something we don't want. So
And this is the thing. I think the most are afraid of facing themselves and to face their own lies they lived years before, the last 20, 30, 50 years.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So truth and love, I'm
Well,
convinced is their own
a
thing.
man last night said very sincere. People who ask questions are very sincere. They're not frivolous questions, but he said, William, the way you're talking is that our future is we get to win, but we don't want to win. We're afraid to win. That's not who we are. We are losers. We're not winners.
Yes.
We're losers. So we're comfortable losing, but we're afraid to win. I said, yes, you're afraid of everything.
Yes.
That is good. Because you're afraid of yourself. In a sense.
Yes.
So, and what I have to say is I know what's in the Deutsche Seele and what's in the Deutsche Herz, and it is full of light. It is warm, open, and generous, as it was 1,000 years ago. The world I have to live in while I am resting. I can see clearly. I can see the overall picture, but they can't see the picture. And so from noises coming from outside, from noises coming from inside, they're constantly kept in where it's just a little bit shaky all the time. And not quite sure, am I on solid ground?
They don't know what to do. They just have been told the last 30 years what to do, what to think. The most thing is what not to think. And where are the borders?
Yes.
And these borders are coming always closer.
Well, this is a perfect example because, you know, last night was meeting number 244. And we've had maybe 12,000 Germans who we have met face to face, touch to touch, eye to eye. They're testing, you know. And not one of these Germans hates Russians. Not one.
Yeah.
And now 16 Länder. Small cities, huge cities. Not one hates Russians. Not one wants to harm Russians. Okay, and Russians look up to Germans. There's no problem there. When Russians think about Germans, they think about attractive, intelligent people. They look up to Germans, and Germans have no animosity towards Russia. There's 4 million Russians who live in peace in Germany. They cause no trouble at all. They're hard-working people who have businesses. So within the German public, there is no desire to harm a Russian. But yet, when the German government says we must send deadly weapons and deadly ammunition and deadly this in great numbers to kill Russians, the German population says, we have nothing to say. But yet, who is the government serving? It's not serving the German families and German people. They have no desire whatsoever to harm any Russian family, economically or physically. So we have a total disconnect. And that is what happens when everything that belongs in a broader sense has to be pushed up here. And then when this is categorized, it becomes non-human.
Yeah.
It becomes non-human. So now all of a sudden, here is Zelensky and the Ukraine and the deal, and so it's not real. And so Scholz can do what he pleases. It doesn't bother them that Baerbock was brought into this post promising peace and love and green security, or that Scholz's history was of one of non-involvement in the. It doesn't, and that's who they voted for. But what they got is the opposite, and yet there's no questions, because we haven't got a whole personality that is able to think clearly. We don't have it.
Yeah, because I think they were inducted the last 2 years with the masks and anything else. Mm-hmm. And when I go through the streets in the cities mostly, you see some people still wearing, in these weather conditions, they are wearing the masks.
That's right.
And they still believe it. They don't ask it, they don't understand it. And so this is, I think, one of the biggest problems. And they don't want to understand what is behind this. The only thing what they now see, they should freeze to harm Putin. Mm-hmm. They should not travel around for Putin, yeah, and they should give everything what they have to the state, because we have some laws which should be in power in, let's say, 2024, to put everything what is in purpose for the people, for the houses, and so on. Real estate should be also put, let's say, some credits on it for the state, because all the billions which are now spent has to be paid by somebody, and nobody is asking why. I don't understand.
No, we have an almost total disconnect, and the problem is that we have the best thinking people on earth, the German people. That's almost a complete thought. Yeah. Most people in the world would say, yes, Germans are good thinking people. They're a wonderful thinking people, a creative people. And yet they ask no questions, they have no curiosity, they have no control over their future. Well, that is one of the great disconnects in history. That's the kind of thing that makes a history book at some time. But the people who live inside this nation right now don't really realize how disconnected they are from their own lives, their own future. So, but the perfect storm will work. And it will wake people up, I can promise you.
And what will come after it?
Well, it will have a whole new breed of leaders. It will have a whole new breed of people, of leaders who are willing to sacrifice their lives for German babies not yet born, which means building an infrastructure, building a society, not for their own grandization, not to have honor come to them, but to build something for someone who's not even here yet, for the future. And people will recognize that. And also we have leaders who say, what are the needs of German families? That's it. That's the priority for a German leader. What are the needs? What are the fears? How can we provide a stable, wonderful life, a joyful life for German families? That's not a consideration today. The consideration today is, how do we please Washington, D.C.? How do we please London? How do we please Brussels? How do we please this and Strasbourg? None of that is cogent with the needs of German families. So we have a whole new breed of people and who are sacrificing themselves for a future people who aren't here yet. People who can't say thank you or pay you back.
They mustn't, because they will be the next generation and will bring these things to life.
That's exactly right.
But do you think that these big organizations like the EU and NATO or something will survive the next 24 months in these conditions?
Well, we have to create crisis for the EU and NATO to survive. We have to create them.
Yeah.
Okay. And if they didn't exist, we would go out of our way to create them. the number 3 man in the European Union. I was moderator for a conference in America, and so he and I had to wait backstage to be introduced. You're sitting there for half an hour, and he said, William, if we don't have a crisis, we don't have a reason to exist.
Okay.
So we have to create a crisis. And NATO is the same. NATO ran out of room. It had, there was, you know, look at all the people working for NATO. Look at all the money going into NATO. And it has no reason to exist. So we have to create a reason for NATO to exist. A reason to justify the money and the time and the energy and the many, many layers of deal. But you know, does anyone think about NATO? We say NATO, Europe. Who runs NATO?
The United
States of America. Who has to be, by law, the top person in NATO? A 4-star American general. Who has to be number 2? A 4-star British general. Then, when it gets down into this level, a German and a French and others get to serve, but they have no say in the strategic deal of it. So we have 2 English-speaking nations, neither one of which who wants anything to do with Europe. Nothing whatsoever to do with Europe. They don't even admire Europe. They don't mind controlling Europe, but they don't care about Europe. English-speaking, non-European nations, and that's NATO. That's 85% of NATO. So when we talk about it, we should talk about it realistically. Germans have no say-so in NATO, and the French have really no say-so, except the French can opt out. They can do what they please. They have that built into their NATO membership. They can do what they please. They're French. The Germans can't. They're stuck with pretending to follow whatever the NATO line is, even if the NATO line is the opposite of what is good for Germany.
But if Germany can't pay anymore, because you said Germany is the cash cow.
They are a cash cow.
And I see the cash cow is dying very, very fast the last months. And the coming months I see it looks like the German economy will break down. And then I think it's finished, because a dead cow, you can't get some milk out. So this is my understanding. What then will happen to this organization? Because
But you must have faith, because the German people are a very special people. They are. They're not above, but they are different. And German people are creative. They're innovative. They create from nothing. Others don't. Others have to have substance, and then they shape it. But the Germans create from almost nothing, and they've done so after both wars, World War I and World War II. In a short period of time, it's like, oh my goodness, it's a miracle what they're able to do. So I have a great deal of faith in them. Now, you will remember me saying a year ago, we're going to have 3 things that are going to weigh us down constantly, and one of them is immigration that no one's talking about. So now we say, yes, we have to take in a couple of million new Ukrainian goods, but they have blonde hair and they have blue eyes, and so that's no problem. But you think about that. And at the same time, we have planes landing from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from Morocco. We have planes landing daily that no one's talking about, with immigrants from all over the Middle East. But they aren't as attractive. But we just don't talk about them. They're not publicized. The planes come in the middle of the night, just like they do in America. Troop movements are done from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the morning. They're extensive all over the country, but they're hidden from the German population. I don't like that, Mark. I've never liked that. If you're going to have immigration, you should tell people about the fullness of that immigration. And what are your plans? What are we going to do with the last 60,000 Afghanis who helped Germany? They're coming, but when are they coming? And what are we going to do with them? How long will it take us to integrate them, where they learn the language and love the culture, and they're active participants in this deal? So I want things up front here. Germans have good minds, but the raw material for good minds is truth.
Yes.
And they're not getting any raw. So we're starving the German mind. And that's not right.
The same thinking I have also. But I see the same thing from the East. Will there come some help? We have some guys looking to, let's say, to the future. They have got some connections to, I'm looking for the word, health-seeing people. Mm-hmm. And they told they get some sense that we will get some peacekeepers out of the East. Or will we get peacekeepers from the West? Mm. What do you think? The next, let's say, 12 months, perhaps, because we got some rumors in Germany because of this special things from Ukrainians and Russians and all people, perhaps also from the south, mm-hmm. and they will also come together.
Mm-hmm. Mark, I don't know what to say. You know, people have to realize that I don't live an independent life. I have to be completely under authority, under obedience, and I have nothing to add to that topic. I simply don't know.
Okay.
And so, the worst thing for me is to pretend to know something that I don't know, or to speak when I'm uncertain.
Okay.
So I can't add to that topic. I'm sorry.
Then we have to wait what will happen.
Yes.
Okay. So, William, thank you very much for this, for your time, for the questions and the answers.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.